That's the Daredevil look. Right. Welcome to Work the Left Side. I am beyond hyped to announce tonight's guest. He is back. It is Kemper. Dude, how are we doing? You good?
I'm good, yeah. Life's been really good. It's good to be back.
I was looking, obviously, at the last episode, sort of timeline-wise, and it's, about 11 months. And, dude, it seems, the momentum is just, it's just snowballing since the last time we talked. Obviously, we'll touch on a few things because I think last time we spoke, you was on about just gaining confidence and, working on mic skills and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, it seems you're popping up everywhere now, dude. So, life is good.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those things where you get a little bit of notoriety in like a big place, which for me was like North, basically. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, who's this guy? And then it just kind of snowballs from there.
That's it. And it's all about first impressions. And, we said this, last time we talked, you bring something to the table, you stand out. There's not many guys, of your size, your stature. I don't know. I'm sure JC won't mind me saying this kind of thing, but me and him obviously talked about you. He sort of knew you were coming into True Grit, and he sort of said at the Rumble, the biggest compliment I've heard is you passed what's called the airport test. If you've heard of it, like a wrestling terminology, is basically if somebody sees you, they look and then they're like, oh shit, they have to double take straight away. You've automatically got that, people's attention, and that's the people selling the merch at True Grit at the Rumble. That was what they were saying to JC afterwards. They was just like, we had to double take. The dude got our attention straight away.
Yeah, that's something that I kind of pride myself on. I mean, obviously, I've been gifted in some regards that I'm naturally tall and stuff. But I also think like your general appearance is very important in wrestling. And that's not to say that I'm some kind of Greek god, because I'm absolutely not. But I'm working towards that, and like I try to make myself look like an athlete and like a wrestler. And to be honest, a lot of the time, a lot of the feedback I get from people that aren't like wrestling fans have just come to support me, like friends and family and stuff. They'll say, we came to the show and you were the only one that looked like a wrestler. So that, that makes me feel good.
That's it, dude. And it's right. I mean, because the thing is, wrestling is obviously it's like a variety show. You can look like X, Y, or Z, but majority of people, we grew up watching like WWE, WCW. We're used to the big man. We're used to seeing posters, pay-per-view covers, and things of just big dudes who look, like I said, look like wrestlers, and you fit that mold. So automatically, that's a box ticked, and you're getting people's attention.
Yeah, and it's like super useful for me. It's a bit of an unfair advantage to I've got on everyone else, really. But I'm absolutely not going to not utilize it, because why wouldn't you? And again, like, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of guys in the scene who are in great shape, way better shape than me. But just kind of add everything together of like the size and the build and the tattoos and stuff, and I think it helps me out a lot.
it all adds up, dude. It all adds up. But the thing is, though, I mean, you're saying that, but from where you were a year ago to how you are now, you look tons better. You didn't even, you didn't look bad then, but I see you putting the graft in. I've seen pictures, the gym and things like that, and you're not just putting the hours in the ring. You're putting in an appearance as well and presentation.
Yeah, well, I think this kind of stuff really matters. Something that I've kind of come to the realization of in the last maybe 6 months, and maybe this is, it's just my opinion, maybe it's a bit naive, but the actual wrestling part of wrestling is not that important. It's all about your like character, your look, all this kind of stuff. And that's what people remember. That's what gets over ultimately. You have to be able to wrestle, don't get me wrong. Like, that is an important thing, and especially if you go to like places that are like smart crowds, like 18 plus crowds, they're going to care a lot about how well you wrestle. But in the grand scheme of things, in the mainstream, like that's where everybody wants to be, like you need to tick all those other boxes, and they're going to care a lot more about moments and character than they are about like some special move that you've done or whatever it is. So I try and piece these things together, and like this is why whenever I have the chance at training like PPW and stuff, I cut promos. And now that I'm getting onto bigger shows, I'm asking everyone, hey, can I do like a minute promo and stuff if that's all right? And it all adds up, because that's something else I noticed, that people don't do promos, and I'm like, why? there's like Nathan Black that does promos and no one else. And I'm like, we can't just leave it all to Nathan. Like, let's everyone else get a bit of the share as well. And he's obviously killing it, but there's room for everyone to do it. So
Perfect.
let's use it.
Of course, yeah, that's it. There's a gap there. There's something you can utilize. Do it. We talked about that last time. Last time we spoke, your kind of confidence was growing a little bit. You were doing promos at Pursuit a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And I think after last time we spoke, I saw you cut a promo on Liam kind of thing at a PPW in-house show, and I was sat there like, yes, you can see it coming together now. He's getting more confidence. Not probably like 10 months ago. So the promos you're cutting now, but just again, trajectory is going upwards.
Yeah, I like to think so. I think I've always had quite a good knack for like the wording of stuff, and in terms of like being able to say something quite cutting that's like interesting for people to listen to, but without crossing that line of just being unnecessarily offensive for no reason. Because that can also push people away as much as it can bring people in. And you don't also want to get heat with the boys, so you have to tread that line.
But to rewind what you were saying before, about obviously you need to be able to wrestle, you need to be able to protect yourself, protect your opponent, work a crowd. But it's spot on. I said something the other day about stories. Stories matter more than stars. As a fan, you need that emotional investment. If you're emotionally invested in the storyline, dude, one choke slam can get a bigger pop than a 5-minute sequence of leg sweeps, backflips, flips, all that kind of sort of stuff. It's the choke slam that's remembered because you invoked an emotion in somebody.
Yeah, definitely. And like I do think that there's absolutely a time and place for the other side of it. If you are exceptionally good at the technical wrestling, you're intense, your footwork and all that stuff is absolutely spot on, that will get a reaction 100% because people notice that stuff. But if you can do that and also talk and also be a big presence in other ways, it definitely helps you out. And I'm not someone that's like massively proficient in like technical wrestling as such. I focus more on the character side, so I lean way more into like a WWE type persona, which is just what I like to watch. That's my main like source of watching for wrestling. I do also like New Japan and things like that, where it's a more heavy hitting and more of a sporty style. But ultimately, I want to be in WWE. I want to be a big character guy. I want people to give a shit when my music hits.
That's it. So, don't get me wrong. I love the 5-minute sequences. Everything's got a place. But for me, for a wrestler, I think if you can invoke an emotion by just doing a move, mate, that's working smart as opposed to working hard. It just makes it easier for you, kind of thing, and it takes less of a toll on your body.
Yeah, definitely. Especially like that's something I've been told by promoters and by Liam at PPW and other people. Just do less. For someone of my size, do less, because one chokeslam from me is the equivalent of like 5 chokeslams from somebody else. Because you're 10 feet in the air when I do it. So it makes a big difference, and you may as well just make the most of that instead of just doing loads of stuff for the sake of it. And it's definitely paid off. And it like at the bigger places that I go, they treat me really well in terms of like protecting my size and stuff. And if anything, like the feedback I get is like, stop being so generous in like how you treat the other wrestlers, be more selfish. So that's what I'm trying to do.
That's it. But again, from talking to you previously, knowing you, I know that's just so out of character. I know you're going to want to be like, the 50-50, like, look, you make me look good, I'll make you look good, kind of thing. But yeah, I suppose sometimes you've kind of got to be like, right, I've got to be the one to shine here. You're shining another time. You kind of, you've got to be a little bit selfish, I suppose, and fight your inner character to just be nice.
Yeah, and I'm definitely doing that more nowadays. Like I'll speak to wrestlers about what we've got for the show coming up, and I'll be like, look, that we'll start to plan something, and I'll say, I can't bump there. Like it's too early for me to bump. If you're going to bump me, it's going to be like at the end of the match, and it's going to mean something. And ultimately, I don't need to win. I'm not saying that I have to be the unstoppable monster, even though I am. But if you bump me right at the beginning, well, I'm just the same as everyone else. Yeah. Whereas if you save that till the end, then it looks like you've achieved something. And I think the same thing for like longer term stories. Where, like at True Grit at the moment, I'm smashing everyone and I look great. And if I just came in and was losing all the time, no one would care. So I'm trying to tell new places that I go to, like, this is how you need to make the most of me. And I feel so awkward because I'm not trying to say, hey, look, I'm so great, put the belt on me, make me main event. No, that's not the point. It's make the most of what I bring that's different to what other people bring.
Make it make sense, make it logical, make it tell a story. That's I'm getting that more and more nowadays. More and more stuff I'm watching, I'm kind of like, I'm finding myself, getting pulled into stories more than other things, and the importance of a story. Like, there's got to be a stake behind the match kind of thing, or there's got to be this, or there's got to be that, and it's got to be something there. And like I said, that is the classic story kind of thing. You got the big man. Yeah, you don't want it bumping straight away. You want the fans to be like, right. It's like going for a body slam. Sort of, somebody goes to body slam. Yeah, first minute, it's not happening. 10 minutes in, they finally hit the body slam. Yes, we told the story. That's it.
Yeah, 100%. I did a super short match the other day at training, and in the whole match I didn't bump at all. And this guy like hits me with his finish. I no sell it, and then we got a big reaction from it. And it's not just like no selling for the sake of silly no selling, because you can get that as well. But it made sense in the sense of our specific characters and what we represent in that particular arena, where I am the champion at PPW again, and I'm the biggest person there, as I am with most places that I go. Not everywhere. There are some people bigger than me, but most places I am the biggest. So it makes sense for me to present it as the biggest. And it worked. It was super fun. The other guy was cool, and he was happy with it as well. And it was all good.
Well, that's it, and that's what matters. Again, you don't have to win to get the rub, to be made to look good, kind of thing. If you guys go again at some point, from a fan's point of view, man, we're behind him. He's got our sympathy. He's got the underdog kind of thing. We'll be rooting for him, whether it takes 2 matches or 3 matches at some point. If we get the payoff of him finally, even just knocking you off your feet, it's like the roof goes off, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it. And it's interesting to me to now have to find ways to keep the other guy looking like a threat, but also not diminishing myself by like throwing myself on the floor immediately. So there's like different ways and techniques to do that. So it's interesting to kind of work outside the box, because no one else really has that same problem with the people that I train with. Everyone's like kind of normal size or maybe a bit big, but like no one else is a giant in this world. So I'm having to think about, okay, what does Kemper do? Because he's not going to be the same as pretty much anyone else here.
That's it, man. Totally unique. Talking to some big men, though, I saw a real Jeebus. Massive shout out to Jeebus. It's where I kind of see my shit if I'm not there. Of you chokeslamming Tim Strange.
Will Cruz.
That wasn't Tim Strange. Sorry, it's Will Cruz.
Yes.
So you chokeslamming Will Cruz last weekend, because obviously you came out to help Nathan. And dude, that in itself is impressive. I mean, obviously Will's normally the big guy in the ring kind of thing, but as you sort of said, you are the monster. I had a little bit of a comment on Instagram about it, and it's like you said, why wouldn't you? You're the monster there, not Will. But that chokeslam, dude, that looked awesome.
Yeah, and like that was a real nice one. And obviously, like pull back the curtain a little bit, there's some teamwork that goes into that. So like shout out to Will for making me look good, because I've chokeslammed guys that were tiny little guys that did not help me at all, and it didn't look half as good as that.
I must admit, when they sent it to me, because I mean, obviously, like, group chat, with the fast count guys and Jeebus and stuff, and Jeebus said that, and I was like, that's what happens when you get 2 guys who are just wanting to make each other look good, kind of thing. And as a fan, we benefit from that hugely, kind of thing. So yeah, shout out. So I was going to mention Will as well, because obviously I noticed he's, from following Pursuit's socials, he seems to be like a regular at Pursuit nowadays. So it must be kind of nice to have somebody, obviously not as monstrous as yourself, but within a close second, you've got somebody you can kind of bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, it's been really useful, actually. Yeah, and Will is super regular now, and he's a really nice guy. Everyone gets on with him, which is helpful as well, always. But it's definitely useful to have someone there who I can say, hey, look, do you think I was selling too much here, or should I have made more of this bit or that bit? And yeah, because he's been around everywhere, and he's not going anywhere either. He's very much on the up and already in all the places that everybody wants to be. So it's super useful having him around, and he's a super nice guy.
That always helps as well, because that's the thing is what we've talked about it before. I think if you're training at Pursuit, you've got to be a nice guy, because everybody kind of helps everybody else out. It's not turned up and been like, right, I need to protect my spot. It's kind of like very open, and obviously willing to help you out and vice versa kind of thing. Nobody's threatened by anyone. It's just, again, I've said it so many times, steel sharpens steel kind of thing. You just help each other get better.
Yeah, and like you're always going to find in some scenarios where you go outside of like where you normally would be that some people won't work with you and they will try and like keep themselves looking good. It's been a rarity for me thus far. If anything, I've been like pleasantly surprised at how willing people are to like work with me. I remember when I came up to wrestling in Newcastle, there was a rumble, and it was probably the biggest rumble in terms of physical size that this country has seen in like years. I came into that rumble towards the end, and when I came in, there was Saxon Huxley, Isaac North, Kez Evans, and Keg Stacker, and I'm like, these guys are all like 6'2" plus, all like big guys, and I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't come in and just start bumping them around, and they were like, yeah, just chuck me about, and I was like, oh, okay, thanks.
That's awesome. Because, like you said, yeah, there are some big boys out there. I spoke to Isaac recently, and he was shouting you out because obviously you're on his radar. He said he was looking forward to having loads of matches with you at some point in the future because it just makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to work with Isaac. He's been killing it as well. I remember before I kind of broke out and made a bit of a name for myself, as I've done in like the last year, I looked up to him a lot because he was doing a similar spot to where I wanted to be. And now I feel like we're getting on some of the same shows, and that's cool. So I definitely would love to work with him.
That's it. And that's the thing, obviously, Isaac, primarily kind of very obviously heel, scary, scary man. Whereas I kind of like the fact that you can be either, depending on whatever the promotion wants you to be. It's like obviously at True Grit, I'm classing you as a face. And I love seeing you work face at True Grit because it's just kind of like that no nonsense. Just because you're a big guy, you don't have to be a heel. It works with you being a face sometimes. And it keeps it fresh for you, I guess, because, you get to work both sides of the coins.
Yeah, so I was a heel for like the vast majority of my first like 4 years wrestling, and then the last year or so, a lot of places have asked me to be a face because they've got so many bigger guys that are heels. So it's been quite nice to have that change. I would say I'm more comfortable as a heel just because I've had much more experience doing it, but I actually quite enjoy being a face as well. And it was like you start off, and obviously everyone does like the classic face stuff of being like over the top, like butter wouldn't melt kind of thing. And I was like, this is just not working. It's not who I am. It doesn't make any sense. I need to like rethink this. And obviously I work with Liam and other guys, and they're telling me like, oh, tweak this, tweak that, but keep it as Kemper ultimately. So that's what I'm doing now. And I'm trying to kind of tread that line of how far can I take this where I'm still a good guy, but I'm still interesting. I'm still Kemper. I've still got the dark side to it, but I'm not just high-fiving and kissing babies and all that kind of thing. So it's working quite well.
You don't want to be the vanilla face kind of thing, it's just, like you said, generic waving, smiling, shaking hands and kissing babies kind of thing. I had to make sure I got that the right way around. I don't want to say kissing hands and shaking babies.
That's
a heel. But yeah, True Grit, obviously, we sponsor True Grit. I love True Grit. The left bank, obviously, I've seen you there before you kind of got in the ring. But what was it like just being in that venue, like say coming out at the Rumble? That must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like I always enjoy working in Leeds because obviously I'm from Leeds. And it's nice. One, it's nice to have like a short commute home afterwards. But two, it's nice because I usually end up with like more people there that I know, so they can come and watch. It's quite local. So like I came out of the Rumble, and there must have been at least 15 people who knew who I was, whether it's other workers or like some of my friends had come as well. And it's just nice to like come out and get a bit of an ovation straight away, because obviously most of the crowd don't know who I am. And then when everyone starts cheering that does know me, they think, oh, this guy must be good. So then they start cheering as well. And it kind of snowballs again. And it's been cool. It's such a nice venue as well to be like inside like a big church, essentially. It's such a cool venue, and you get really nice photos from that as well. So yeah, it's been great. Get a lot of people in there as well.
Yeah, it is. It's surprising, isn't it, when you're in there? It's kind of like, it's a bit like a TARDIS where you kind of look at it from the outside and you think, oh, I might get 100 people. No, you get in, it's like, yeah, 300-400. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's a good amount, and it's a lot more than you think as well. So yeah, just makes for a good atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. And then True Grit's been doing a great job of getting people in. I think There's been a little bit of a downward turn in terms of like overall wrestling attendances in the last 6 months ish. I think that's just the cost of living and stuff that's going on. I don't think it's to do with the quality of wrestling because there's some great work going on out and around. But I think people are just finding it tough, which is absolutely understandable.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I know it's obviously tricky for TrueGrit as well because they're running shows every month now, whereas last year they was running like 5 or 6 shows over the year. So I think it's testing, like I said, just cost of living is testing people's boundaries a little bit budget wise. But the people that do go and we're there, we all appreciate it. So that's cool. Talked about obviously working face at TrueGrit though. I just mentioned helping Nathan out at Rise. So obviously at Rise you out and out heel.
Yeah, well, I've only done little bits at Rise. I had a match against Nathan in that same venue, maybe 2 months ago or something like that. And then I've had this little like interjection in the match with Nathan and Will, where I very much went from previously being pretty face just by virtue of facing Nathan, basically, and then coming out and attacking Will. So I would definitely say I'm steering into the heel side at Rise. But I think with this kind of crowd, it probably would work better with what I offer as a kind of unique character, because I could come out and try and be face, but I don't know that they would buy it because it's a very like, well, it's an 18 plus, everyone's drunk, everyone's having a good time, they're there for like big spots and have death matches ultimately, which is that's not the route I'm going to be going down, but like they do have like a fair amount of just standard wrestling, for lack of a better word.
Oh yeah, I mean I liken Rise to like ECW back in the day. Everybody thought it was always extreme, but then you'd have guys like Eddie Guerrero, Malenko, Benoit, Jericho, guys like that going through and just putting on damn good matches. So yeah, same with Rise. It's not just deathmatch stuff. You get some absolutely seriously quality matches.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see there's quite a big influx of PPW guys there at the moment. So when I go, like half the card is people I already know pretty well. And then just obviously by virtue of being there, now I know a lot of the other people as well. So it's a nice environment.
And that's it. Yeah, speaking of what you said before, I mean, obviously, yeah, heel Kemper makes sense at Rise just because of the brutality. Not to copyright infringement, Rhea Ripley or anything, but yeah, at Rise you can bring the brutality and it be believable, and it just be like, yeah, it's just a big bastard who's just gonna foo boy you because he can.
Yeah, it's actually a bit of a funny one. Sometimes I find when I'm playing the heel character more, the crowd sometimes they still get behind me because if I come out and I just lob someone across the ring, people just automatically cheer because it's cool, and I'm like, oh guys, it's not really what I'm trying to do right now. So it can be a bit of a weird one, but there's ways around that, and you have to kind of work smarter to understand, okay, maybe I should do this instead, on like use a bit more again character, like to tweak it back into being what it needs to be.
And that, if you've done something really really cool like that, take the Orton page out of Orton's book, just put him in the chin lock for 5 minutes and just get him to boo you. Just calm it down, and then just be like, oh, so, and then you'd be like, ah. Every time you cheer me, I'm putting on chin lock.
Maybe I don't know if Kemper's a chin lock guy. I think I'm a bit too big for that, but maybe something.
Nerve grip, man.
Yeah,
nerve grip on the shoulder. So we talked obviously, Rise North. Like I said though, dude, you broke into North very quickly after we last sort of spoke, and yeah, North is one of those promotions that seems to be on everybody's list now. It's a box that everybody wants to tick. Especially up north kind of thing. Obviously, you got your Progress and your Rev Pros down south. But for me, North is kind of like the northern equivalent of Rev Pro or Progress. They're kind of like the promotion up here. Not to be smirching anybody else kind of thing. I'm not saying they're way better than anybody else, but I think because of their YouTube and the talent they bring over, the level of exposure for working at North exceeds a lot of other places.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. For me, it's the biggest one in the North for sure in terms of production value, in terms of quality of shows and matches and stuff. The commentary team, the lighting, everything's great, and it's always a good atmosphere there. Backstage, whether you're in with the guys or like even with the crowd, everyone's like just nice and they're really into it, and they're doing well. They're always selling out their venues, so they're clearly onto something. I mean, not that I'm breaking any like breaking news here because I've been doing this for a long time now, but it's super cool to be involved there, because I remember when it first kind of got broached that I might be involved, and obviously Liam is heavily involved at North, having been like a long-term champion for them. And it was kind of through Liam that I managed to get a bit of an in the first place, bit of an opportunity. And I remember when Liam suggested it to me, and he was saying, I've mentioned you to the guy who runs North, Bowers, and I was like, at this point, this is like over a year ago, so I was way less, I don't know, confident and way less put together in terms of my overall character, my abilities, my promos. It was all just not as good as it is now. So I remember when he said it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I've mentioned you to Bowers," and I was like, "Why? Like they're up here, and I'm like down here. Like, what are you talking about?" But then lo and behold, 2 or 3 months later, we get a shot on the pre-show, me and Joe Vertigo, and that's kind of how it goes. Like, you get a chance to impress, basically. Go out there and do all your best stuff. Don't worry about psychology because you've only got like a short amount of time. Just show us what you can do and see if it's good, see if the crowd cares, and yada yada. It's a bit of a strange spot to be in because it happens before the show and not all the crowd have like got in yet. Some people are still getting drinks or merch or whatever they're doing. But I would say there was a good like 75-80% of the people were in. And to open the show cold, it's even before like they play the music for the start of the show and stuff. So it really is a different vibe to being on the show. So it's very difficult to like get people engaged. But we just went out there, and I think Jay was a fantastic partner for me in that match. He's also been back at North since, so he's clearly impressed as well. But when we went out there, it was a cold start, but by the end of it, they cared about everything that we did, and that's the feedback that we got. That of all the matches, like, this is the most difficult spot to be in terms of getting over. Obviously, it's more difficult to be in the main event as an overall spot,
Yeah.
but in terms of that cold open, there's nothing much more difficult than this one. And all the time, people don't really get that invested, but they were invested in everything that we did, and that was music to my ears because I was pretty nervous, but I did feel out of place a bit coming into it, as obviously as I've just said. I didn't feel like I was on that level yet, but then once we kind of went out and did it, I was like, fuck yeah, I am on this level. Like, I don't have every single box ticked, and everyone's always improving and stuff, but I feel like I belong on the card. Maybe not top of the card, but I belong on the card, and I'll get to that top point eventually.
And that's half the battle, right? Sort of that self-belief of, I belong here. You know, there's nothing worse than being your own worst enemy in the sense of like second guessing yourself and being like, oh yeah, I'm like your phony syndrome kind of thing. You're like, oh, I don't belong here, I'm just a phony kind of thing. If you can look at yourself and be like, right, okay, I've worked hard, I belong here, that's half the battle done. Like sort of said, you know, open to progression, to getting better. And you know, there's still things to be done. Like I said, you're never gonna complete being a wrestler. There's always something to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like genuinely I have so many. Like, it's funny to look at me a year ago to look at me now. If anything, I've gone too far the other way, but now my ego's out of control. I think I'm great. But I look at it and I'm like, you look at the different aspects of a professional wrestler, and I genuinely think I tick them all in terms of like look, athleticism, charisma, just all the things that you need. I think there's people all across the board who are like better in ring than me, say for example, but they don't have the size, or they don't have the build, or they don't have the athleticism or the character. That I don't see anyone that has it all, and apart from arguably Leon, but obviously he's gone on to higher levels now. So in terms of someone that kind of ticks every single box, I don't think there's anyone else beyond me in that regard. And that people will not like to hear that probably. But it's just the confidence of where I'm at. And I know I've got loads of stuff to improve on in the ring and stuff to improve on this and that, but I think I just tick all the boxes, and those boxes are just going to get more and more full the more and more complete I become.
Dude. Yeah, and you're not saying it, and you're not being gnarly about it. You are making sense when you say stuff like that. So you can't really argue it. Like sort of said, it just, yeah, you tick this box, yes, you tick this box, yes, you tick this box. There's still work to be done, but the confidence after everything you've done over the since we last spoke, the confidence should be there. It's warranted. It's justified. So I don't think anyone can begrudge you saying stuff like that, because you're not lying about it.
Yeah, well, I like to think so. I always had self-belief that I could do this at the highest level. And it's only really like it's kind of clicked into a second gear. I always thought I could do it, but I knew I had so much that I needed to improve on. Whereas now I'm like, yeah, I could step into any show right now. And I'm not saying I would necessarily steal the show every single time, but I could be on the show. I could make something different. And I literally have been like planning out my route of how do I get to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, whether that's, not just being on North, but also being on the stuff down south, like Rev Pro and Progress, and then not just being in the UK, but being on things like TNA or Impact, or AEW and New Japan and WWE. Like, there's a path through all these things, and I'm looking at it now, and I can feel it. I can sense it happening. It's not there yet, but it's coming.
Dude, I mean, this is amazing for me. I'm absolutely loving this because I said, from last time we spoke, dude, it's just, and again, it's justified. So that's all I'll say is that, I'm fully behind it, fully support it. I think it's totally where you should be now in the journey kind of thing, confidence wise, ability wise, ticking the boxes off. You mentioned TNA there. Obviously, there was the TNA gut check thing that you did. How did that come about? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So, just quickly before I get into the detail of that, that was like a mad 2 weeks for me because in 2 weeks I had that TNA gut check. I debuted at North and then I wrestled in Mexico. And I was like, I've gone from being like completely unknown to everyone being like, who the hell is this that's doing all these things? So that was like super cool. But yeah, the TNA thing, I mean, it was just an open thing. Anyone could go. There was like a cost to it, but like anyone could feasibly go. And I wasn't really sure what kind of level of wrestler they were looking for in terms of like, did they want someone that was an athlete that hadn't wrestled much, or did they want someone that was like a 10-year veteran? I wasn't really that convinced that I was what they would want. So I was mentioning it to other people who I thought were possibly a better fit that were like working a lot more shows than I was at the time. So like Joe Wade and Vusic, I remember speaking to them and being like, hey guys, you should have a look at this because I think you would fit the bill. And then I spoke to Liam and he was like, you should go. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm really what they're looking for. I was like, what's the worst that can happen? Like you go, you don't win it and that's that. And I was like, yeah, I suppose. So I went into it ultimately, this genuinely just went into it as a view of this is a networking experience because one, I'm going to meet these TNA people. All right, they might not remember me, but I'm going to meet a whole bunch of people from the UK that I've not met before as well. So I got there and initially there wasn't a whole bunch of people that I recognized, but then they slowly started to filter in and I was like, oh shit, there's some like serious talent in here. And like guys that I've seen on Progress for years, like TK Cooper and Chuck Mambo were there, and guys that were just like all over the scene. And I was just like, I'm feeling a little bit out of my depth at this particular point, but you kind of just go along with it and hope for the best. And I don't know if you know much about how those tryouts like went, but basically there was like 80 people there, so they didn't have a lot of time to give everyone like huge amounts of in-ring time. Essentially we got split into, I think it was 4 groups, something like that, and then we were doing drills. So like the first drill was literally you just get in, do a couple of rolls, and then get out the other side. And then in tandem, there was like 2 lines going across the ring. So this guy rolls, then this guy rolls, and so on and so forth. And it was really just about absolute fundamentals of being able to do a roll and the timing of doing it at the right time. So you're going as the other guy is getting out the way, which you would be surprised. There were some people there that I've seen on TV that were banging into each other and they were getting shouted at by Scott D'Amore. And I was like, guys, you just need to like calm down a bit because this is like the most basic thing we're probably going to do all day. So that was the first aspect of it. And then the only other real bit was we were given the chance to give a heat and take a heat. So a heat, for anyone that like doesn't know, is essentially when the heel is in control of a match and they're just beating down the babyface to get some kind of sympathy and to show their like dominance. So it gives the babyface time to like be down and like get the crowd behind them, and then obviously the heel is looking good because hey, look, you can't get up because I'm so great. So we had to do that both ways, and then after that, they just picked 10 people that they wanted to have matches, and I was lucky enough to be picked. And I remember we came out the ring from doing the drills, and I was like, well, there's no way they're going to pick me because there's literally people here that have been on the scene at the highest level for years. and I've done at this point really nothing. I had been to Finland, which was cool, but in terms of like stuff in the UK, I hadn't really done anything. Like I'd done little shows, obviously, but nothing of like major note. So I was like, oh, they're probably not going to pick me. And then I was actually chatting to Leon, who was there because he was on the show, and he was like, nah, you stand out. Like, you obviously, like, you're a big guy and stuff. Like, there's reasons that they like would be interested in you. You're not just like a generic big guy as well. Like, you can move around and yeah, you've got something about you. And I was like, oh, I appreciate that, but I don't know how it's going to go. But lo and behold, they did pick me. Joe Hendry actually was doing the dishing out of the picking for like I worded that really weirdly, but you know what I mean. He was going around telling people who got picked, and he came up to me and he was like, "What's your name again?" I was like, Kemper, and he's like, okay, and then just walked off, and I was like, what does that mean? Have I been picked? I don't know what's going on. But yeah, luckily I was picked, obviously alongside some of the other guys like Harley Hudson, who ended up winning, and I think Billy O'Keefe got picked. There was quite a few. Jason Joshua. So I always get Jason Joshua mixed up with Jay Joshua. Yeah, one of them guys. Mulligan, who I was with, who was actually taller than me. He's like 6'7", like shoot. So I was like, this is different. I'm not used to this. And yeah, like a bunch of other guys. And then we had to do like a quick 5-minute match. So that was surreal because like even though like I didn't win, I've wrestled in a TNA ring in front of Gail Kim and Josh Alexander and Scott D'Amore. So I was like, this is insane. I was absolutely buzzing just with that. And I was really pleased for Harley, to be honest, because she's such a nice girl. And she has like, from like the female perspective, is the total package in terms of charisma. She clearly works hard at the gym. She's in shape. She can wrestle. People care about her wrestling. Like, what more do you want? So I was genuinely really happy for her because of all the people I only really knew her and Billy, I think, that got picked. So I was like, it was nice for someone that I knew to get the victory if it wasn't going to be me, because I never even expected to get to the finals, never mind win it. So yeah, that was cool.
That's very, very cool. Like you sort of said, you just didn't quite, but to get where you did, dude, that is like uber impressive. That is awesome. And yeah, Jason Joshua, I had him on the show last week, and I was talking to him. I was like, Jason Joshua, because I just knew as soon as I hit record, I'm like, Joshua, Jason, no, wrong way around, Jason Joshua. And he was like, oh, sorry, dude, it's my fault for having. Just call me JJ. I was like, that's right, I'll remember. But yeah, I'm right there with you, dude. I get it the wrong way around all the time.
Yeah, to confuse it even more, they were both at that tryout. So I'm a terrible guy, but I can't remember which one's which off the top of my head now.
Billy O'Keefe as well, though. Shout out to Billy. I love Billy. I think the guy's awesome. He's got a massive upside. I'm expecting to see him, just go onwards and upwards over the next few years as well. So it sounds like they knew what they were looking for, and they were picking, the good people as well, kind of thing. So, dude, definitely worthy pat on the back. Like I said as well, just a crazy 2 weeks. That North, which we talked about, but Mexico. I think last time we spoke, I think we knew that was in the pipelines, but it hadn't happened yet. So obviously, it was just after we talked. I can't remember who I had somebody else on afterwards that went to Mexico with you guys, and we were talking about Ellis. That's it. So yeah, Mr. Barker. I was talking about like the 20-foot ring, and obviously I'm so used to just seeing you primarily in like the PPW ring. I remember seeing a photo of you in the ring in Mexico, but I was like, even you look lost in that ring. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, those rings are huge. And the only place I'd been in a 20-foot ring, I think, was at UKW, and I've literally done like a couple of seminars there and worked one show there. So it's not like a great deal of experience in a 20-foot ring. But being the size that I am, and also in Mexico, everyone was super short, like way shorter than over here, just generally, not just the wrestlers, like everyone. So I stood out massively. And then as a result, I'm not really running the ropes and stuff anyway. So I'm kind of just taking the center of the ring. And my opponent, who was called Criminal, he was doing all the cool stuff and like diving and flips and spins and stuff. And I was just like, yeah, I'll just do my normal stuff. Like, just throw you around. But in the ring,
just run into me and try and move me.
Basically, yeah. But the ring was rock solid. It had zero give to it. It wasn't like a UK ring. It was like a boxing ring where there's just some UK rings have a spring, some don't, but there's always kind of some give to it because the way the beams are like built. This ring had no give whatsoever. You may as well have been wrestling on the concrete. It was awful. And this guy who I was wrestling, Criminal, he, but we, for one thing, he didn't speak any English, like any. So trying to plan the match was real interesting. It was all just like gestures. I thought that they would at least understand wrestling words like suplex. He looked at me like he'd never heard that word in his entire life. So I was like, right, okay, this is going to be interesting. So I just kind of had to be like clothesline and choke slam and stuff. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. But he was like, give me the choke slam and then give me a power bomb. And I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea in this ring, but it's your funeral. And
Ooh.
the thud that it made when he hit that canvas was awful. He was like hobbling around afterwards, but I was like, I feel kind of bad, but you did ask for this, so
Careful what you ask for. You know, you just
yeah,
kind of like logically look at me, look at the height. You know these rings, dude. You know that was gonna hurt. Yeah, so
yeah.
yeah, all for you. But I bet it was like a test of like cojones or something. You'd be like, yeah, I can get into powerbomb in. You know, I'll still be walking around tomorrow. You know, we've got pats off the back off of everyone. We'd be like, yeah, you took a powerbomb off the big guy. Well done.
It's probably such a different style for them, to be honest, because the luchador style is completely different to British and American and like Japanese wrestling and stuff. It's all acrobatics. It's all spot to spot to spot. They don't really like sell in like in any comparable way to how the people sell in our like WWE and AEW and like these kind of things. It's really different. So like I hit him with a strike, just like a normal forearm or something, and he sold like I shot him in the face, and he just didn't get up, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to pick you up then. So
That's
it's like
awesome.
I appreciate you like making me look good from this strike's been like a killer punch, but like he just was not getting up at all, and I was like, okay.
You're second guessing yourself, being like, oh, so I can't even imagine. I'd just be like, no, was it like, fuck, am I actually genuinely hurt him? Or is, what the hell is going on kind of thing? You'd be like, pick him up, see if he falls. No, right, he's still standing. Right, let's go. It's
Pretty
like you
much,
pick
yeah.
him up, let him go, and just ragdoll him and be like, nope, dead weight.
Yeah, pretty much. It was interesting, but he did some cool stuff when he did get going. He did like a nice like cyclone, I think they call it, where you go up on the top rope and he like spins like on that axis, like vertical axis, and like dives on me on the outside. And there's also like a cool suicide dive spot where he dove out of the ring and I caught him, and everyone was like, "Whoa!" Like no one does that here because no one else is like your size. Yeah. So I got a good reaction. The whole event was super cool. That trip was the best trip I've ever been on in my life. We had such a laugh, me, Alice, and Nathan, and like the event went super well. The crowd were really into it. There was like an old woman trying to fight Nathan at the end. He was clearly doing his job. And then when it came to like time for going home, the promoter was literally crying with how well it had all gone. It was insane. So I think they'll be coming to the next PPW event, Second Pursuit, in September. So it'd be great to see some of those guys again.
That'd be awesome. I know Pursuit kind of teased an international feel to Second Pursuit, so that kind of makes sense. But yeah, I was going to ask you about did you get much time just to take sort of a bit of a sightseeing, taking the the local scenes, because obviously, yeah, the thing with Mexico is wrestling is such a part of the heritage. It's just, did you get a chance to sort of absorb any of that?
Generally, like a little bit, but not too much in terms of like luchador stuff. Really, it was more like we went on a day trip to the main city of where we were near, but we didn't. There wasn't much in terms of like actual wrestling stuff. All the wrestling memorabilia and things was mostly at the arena. Like the guy who runs it, Felipe, has like a really cool collection of photos of different people that work there and all different masks and stuff that they have. Obviously, that's such a big part of Mexican wrestling, the masks. And then he'd really done it to like such a professional level. There was like a really cool entranceway. All the lighting was all different colors and flashing like to the music and stuff. They had like a smoke machine. It was all really well done, and it was just in some like little side street in Mexico, and quite an unassuming building. Other than the fact that again, it looked really professional because there was a light strip on the side of the building, like a sign that lit up that said IPW Lucha Libre. So like you would know that that was the arena, and yeah, it was awesome. It was so cool.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. I can just imagine you just walking around, like you sort of said, just being head and shoulders above everybody. I can just imagine you just walking around Mexico and everyone just being like, "Oh shit!"
There was no one there that was even close to Nathan's height, and I'm like a good bit taller than Nathan. So
Jeez. I love the fact that you like grandma nearly started a fight with them. Though I remember, Ellis was telling me about it, and it was just like that's just Nathan all over. The dude's turned up, done the job, pissed off the grandmas, and then gone home. Perfect.
that's it. Absolutely.
Love it. Obviously, Mexico's not the again. That's what I love. Like about Pursuit. I know they've done. I want to say Italy recently because I know Lawson went to Rome. And I was like, yeah, yes, sorry, that's it. Yeah, because we were talking about going to Rome at some point. But it's just for a school. It's so international. I've never known a school kind of do like little, tours into other countries. It's just, it's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's beneficial for everyone involved, really. So, what's interesting is because of how well Pursuit do in terms of social media, they are perceived from like the European nations as being like a huge deal. And whilst I do think we are a big deal in the UK, we don't like. I don't think anyone's like, oh, well, like the number one wrestling company going into because you look at like Progress and Rev Pro and North and stuff. They're like what everyone looks at, but then we were this like side shoot, if you like, of a school that's on like such a good level of I don't know prominence, if you like. And then you look at the people that come through in terms of training and stuff, and it's such a high level of training. And they've done so much for me personally. Like I would never stop flying the flag for Pursuit because they've completely shifted my career from kind of like I say doing nothing pretty much a year ago to being all over the place now. And that some of that is my own work, of course, but it's so much also down to Liam and Nathan, and I'll be forever indebted to them for that. And I don't think either of them like receiving these kind of compliments, but they've done so much for me that I'm like super, super grateful. And yeah, I'll be Pursuit until I die.
Nice, love it. Talk about talent that comes in, for like the takeover sessions and stuff like that. Was you there for the Chris Masters one? Because that is a visual image I'd love to sort of see. You breaking the master lock or something.
So I had bought a ticket to come along and do the seminar, and then I was ill and I couldn't go. So I was quite gutted, to be honest. That was the one seminar I think they've done that I haven't been to since I started. So unfortunately, I did not meet Chris Masters, but I did hear it was very good, and they did like some really cool, interesting stuff, and like watched a match with him and like Shawn Michaels, which is crazy to think about. And he was like breaking down all the different spots and like what made sense and what he'd been like working on with Shawn on house shows and stuff that led to this moment. So I did hear some stuff that was useful, but unfortunately, I was not able to attend.
Ah, dude. Well, hopefully it comes back. That is, like I said, that's just a visual image that I just think, if you just you breaking the master lock, I think that would just be that will then elevate you. That would just be like, yeah, Kemper, boss, sorted. There we go. Get this man sorted.
Chris Masters might not agree.
You might want to protect it, I don't know, but you might just be like, you know what? Just it depends how chilled he is. I think at the time, probably it just depends how you catch him. But obviously, Pursuit have just announced. Well, whilst we talk about Pursuit, I know they've just announced tonight. Joseph Connors is doing a session at the end of July. Not the biggest of guys, but brain-wise, probably one of the biggest wrestling brains in the UK at the minute. So that should be cool.
Yeah, I did a session with Joe at Wrestling Newcastle. They do seminars as well before a lot of their shows. And I did a session with him there, and it was really cool to work with him just for like that couple of hours that I got to do that. So I'll definitely be going along to the next one as well. We've had some really good people through the door at Pursuit, to be honest. There's been so much from so many different types of wrestlers as well. So we've had people like Mike Bird who are like exceptional at the like technical and fundamental stuff, and they like push you to like levels in terms of like physicality and stuff as well. But then we had like Lana Austin, who's super intense and great character and stuff, and it's a whole different side with her of what you learn with her. And every single one has been useful. Like we just had Luke Jacobs, and I was like, he's literally the number one wrestler in the country that's not signed. So what more do you want to learn from?
That's it. Yeah, Luke, like I said, you've had Saxon recently. I think Saxon was there
Yeah.
Wasn't over. Yep. Nathan Cruz obviously have been at some recently as well. Well, I say recently. I'm losing track of time. I can't believe it's like July already. It's probably there in like February or something. But yeah, that's the thing. I think Pursuit are very good at bringing these talent in, but it's not the same style. It's not rinse and repeat. They're bringing in such a variety of people that as a student there, you can't help but learn.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, the one that we just did with Saxon the other day was great as well. He's such a nice guy and very knowledgeable because obviously he's just been on loads of tours of Japan and that's still ongoing as he's like progressing through it and getting further up the ranks. So it's super cool to learn from him and what he's learned from that like style that they have in Noah, which is the Japanese style overall, but then there's like specific things to Noah that are not the same as New Japan and things like that. So it's really interesting working with all these different people. It's been great.
I mean, that's to me that he would be one of the ones for you to be like, picking the brain off kind of thing. Because, like sort of said, ticking off the boxes. Obviously Japan's on the radar. It's on the list. Yeah, if you could kind of get any words of advice or networking, Saxon is a boss. Because, like I said, Noah as well. The way they work in Noah, I think fits Kemper very well.
Yeah, I think I could do some good stuff there if I ever got that opportunity. I think overall, like I said before, my style that I work towards is more of a WWE style, but I absolutely would love to work in Japan. And obviously, if anyone from any of these major Japanese companies reached out to me, I would absolutely say yes. But ultimately, I think my style is a bit more character and a bit more WWE than it is Japanese style, which is a bit more presented like a real sport and a bit more intense and stuff like that. So I like to watch these things. Sometimes I'll sit down and watch some of the New Japan matches that are like an hour long, like Okada and Ospreay and Okada and Kenny Omega and stuff. But I also would say that most of what I lean towards is definitely on the WWE style. Like my favorite wrestlers. Well, to be fair, Will Ospreay is one of my favorite wrestlers, who has obviously been heavily in Japan, although he's now in AEW. But I also really like people like Brock Lesnar and like Gunther and stuff that are WWE mold. Yeah.
Yeah, big men slapping meat kind of thing. So, well, that's what I mean. I think with Noah, it's just it's kind of got that realistic vibe about it, but you kind of bring a realistic edge to the character kind of thing. You can stand there and exchange blows. That's what I mean. That's why I don't think you'd look out of place kind of thing. That's what I mean by you'd fit Noah for me kind of thing. I think it'd just be very very cool. But yeah, I kind of get obviously the Gunther, like I said, just working smart, working strong, working big, and just invoking emotion from people as opposed to just going out and like 5-star matches kind of thing.
Yeah, and like don't get me wrong, like Brock Lesnar and Gunther, so I just mentioned those two specifically, but they can have 5-star matches. They're more than capable of that, and they have done. And we use the term 5-star loosely because it's just like opinion based, but they can have very good matches in terms of like the flow and up and down and bringing in the audience and engaging with them and stuff. But they also can do like super character based stuff, especially Brock. You look at the stuff Brock's done over the years where he's dancing around in a Mexican hat, or he had the Money in the Bank and he was dancing around like a boombox, and then all of a sudden his demeanor changes and you're like, this is the scariest man on the planet. So that's what I want to be. I want to be the people that I like in that regard is like him, Samoa Joe, and like Kurt Angle. And like Kurt Angle's not like a big guy or anything, but the way he could go from being so silly into like, and now you're in serious danger is so cool. And that's something I would really love to like bring to my character.
Definitely. Oh, dude, that would be, just like I say, that split second, that moment where I was talking to somebody about it last week. Well, I was talking to Violet Vendetta. We decided on the sidebar into what about The Boys. I don't know if you watch it, but there's a character in it called Homelander, where literally you can be like a poster boy, like, Superman, smiles, American hero, and then he just snaps and he just looks like will kill you in a split second, and it's just the most scariest thing on TV kind of thing.
Yeah, I've seen the first 1 or 2 series of that. I haven't seen them all. But yeah, it's a very interesting character. I remember Cody Rhodes getting a lot of comparisons to Homelander when he was in AEW. So
yeah, the flag and the cape and stuff. But yeah, it was just like it's just that split moment where he's smiling for the cameras, and then somebody pisses him off, and it's just the split second kind of thing. Like, oh shit, or like James McAvoy's split. Just weekend personality changes like that. I just don't think there's anything scarier than that, because you never know where you stand with that person. Like in a split second, mate, you're done.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I want to incorporate into my character, because I started off as being just super dark and intense, whereas now I'm also trying to incorporate a bit more like normal but like smugness to me as well. So if you see the promos I do on Pursuit, I am kind of chatting shit and putting people down and stuff, but then I also want to be able to be intense and be dark and have both sides of it. So it's something I'm absolutely working on. It's constantly like running through my mind of like how I can bring those things together and not just completely abandon what I've done before, because I still like that, but I also want to make it more. And again, this is like stuff that I don't think, not this idea specifically, but just generally, like this is stuff that I think gets you over in the long term, and it's the stuff that people will care about. So I'm really like putting stock into it. I think there's a bit of a weird gap in British wrestling where some people go way too deep into like stories and stuff and minutia, when it's like shows that run once every couple of months, and then they expect the fans to know what happened 2 months ago in this like 30-second little thing. And I'm like, lads, it's just not going to happen. But I do want to have some kind of overarching character where people can recognize that here's Kemper, this is what he is. He can be quite quick-witted and smart talking, but also he'll take your head off. So that's what I'm aiming for.
That's it. I mean, obviously, yeah. Well, we talked about Isaac earlier. Like, I've chatted to him a few times about getting inspiration for the character. Like you sort of said, then what you're doing now is basically you're fine tuning it, you're tweaking the Kemper personality. You know, the character is evolving. Basically, you know, he's going from this thing to being this, but having elements of other stuff in it as well. Do you pull? Obviously, we know. You know, we've talked wrestling. I know you're a big wrestling fan. Obviously, you must be. But do you pull inspiration from other things? Do you kind of look at other sources of media for inspiration for the character, for Kemper? Like I mentioned, like Homelander, then kind of thing. Or are you watching films or TV shows or music videos and being like, I can use that?
So I don't massively actively watch stuff these days. I have so little time to watch like anything, because I'm constantly at training, or I'm at the gym, or I'm traveling to shows, or just to my actual job, that I don't have too much time to watch like TV or films and stuff. But I obviously have seen them in the past, and there's things that I pick out that I think I can use. A lot of my character is based on, I would say it's mostly based on lived experiences, and you could argue even that now with like the way it's become more smug and more like, I don't know, confidence, because I've become more confident. I believe in myself, and obviously I'm turning it up to be like a bit of a dick, but I do believe these things a lot of the time about myself. So a lot of it's from my lived experiences, but I do take things probably mostly in terms of media from music, and it's usually mindsets of like that confidence, or like, so I listen to a lot of rap music, but I also listen to a lot of heavy metal. So that kind of perfectly encapsulates the Kemper character, because rap music is all about bragging and like, look how great I am, and then heavy metal is like, oh, we're all super intense and depressed and all this stuff. So I've kind of got both those worlds together, and it's really interesting to lean into both sides. I quite often will take lines from songs and think I can use that some way, whether it's just a caption for an Instagram, or whether I use it in a promo, or I tweak it to be something that's fitting to me. I do a lot more stuff from music than I do from like TV and film, I would say.
Well, that's because I suppose obviously it makes more sense. You like say you're either traveling or you're working or you're training or you're at the gym. It's a lot easier to have earphones in and listen to music than it is to watch stuff. So I will say shout out then if you've heard this album, amazing. You know why I'm saying it. Look up an album called Judgment Night. It's a soundtrack from a film in the 90s. It's one of the first hybrid albums of hip hop and metal. Like it's just a collaboration of hip hop artists and metal artists working together.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I'll send you a link on it. If you listen to it, awesome. And hopefully, you do, and you'll be like, oh shit, yeah, Nick knows what he's talking about, and you'll appreciate it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I think sometimes that middle ground can go like really south. So like, I usually listen to strictly rap or strictly metal. Sometimes when they meet in the middle, it doesn't mesh very well. I find it comes off a bit cheesy, but there is like a sweet spot, definitely. Because you look at a lot of the new metal stuff, and they're basically rapping a lot of the time. So there's definitely like a middle ground where it comes together, and it's cool to listen to. So I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's two bands. It's like Cypress Hill and Pearl Jam working together, or Run DMC and Anthrax working together. It's literally like, yeah, it's not just somebody who thinks they can do both. It's both sides, yeah, working together kind of thing. So
Yeah. Oh, that's
I think it's cool. If anybody agrees, let me know in the comments. Please don't let me look here like a mug, just being like, oh, it's great. And everybody's like, no, mate, it's fucking wank. Don't listen to it. Like, oh. Dude, just quick rewind. We mentioned the Wrestling in Newcastle seminar. I just want to shout out them as well. You know, Benji does an awesome job. And I know they use the seminars to see who turns up, who puts the effort in, who makes a good impression kind of thing. So I'm guessing, you know, you had that experience. Like, say you've been to a Wrestling in Newcastle seminar, you've been on a show. Did you go to the seminar first and then get the show, or the other way?
Yeah, so I went to a couple of them. I went to Nathan Cruz seminar, and then I went to the Joe Connors one, and then after that, I got a shot on the show. And yeah, it's been absolutely great. Like, Benji gets it in terms of like how to use a big guy as well. And funnily enough, he like really enjoys big guys wrestling. Whereas obviously he's like a smaller frame himself. He really likes the heavyweight stuff, which is cool because then I get to flourish. And surprisingly, like a lot of places you go, they don't really know what to do with a big guy. They're not really used to it, so they end up booking me like everyone else, and I have to kind of push back and say no, like it needs to be like this. Whereas Benji's like, oh yeah, we'll do this and this and this, and I'm like, awesome, yes, thank you. So yeah, it's been awesome working there with Benji and Ryan. It's a really fun place to go. They've got a show coming up August 3rd as well. I'll be there.
Yes. I know. Is that the Mark Mothers one?
It is indeed.
Yeah, I saw having a little bit of a back and forth on Twitter. I saw him trying to poke the bear on Twitter a little bit. You know, like sort of. So I kind of had to jump in. I was just, you know, because he was like, "Oh, imagine being as tall as you are and being second favorite kind of thing."
Yeah.
And I was like, imagine not being second favorite and losing. You know, like you're not even going to be. You know, this man's going to like Team Kemper every day kind of thing. No offense to Mark. Mark's awesome. I've seen his work. He's the guy's quality. So, but
he's great. He's not Kemper.
Yorkshire represent. You know, I live here now, so I've got to represent. Yeah, dude, we've hit the hour mark. I didn't expect it. I thought with it, just normally catch up episodes 40-45 minutes, you know, when people come back on again kind of thing. But I just think it's been such a change from the last time we spoke. It's kind of felt like, you know, the first time we've talked kind of thing, because it's just a total change in character. The confidence is there now. Yeah, I think you kind of see you're seeing now what I think a lot of people saw a year ago, you know, and then absolutely smashing it. So what's left for this year? You know, we're in July now. Is there any other boxes you want to tick off that are in your vision?
I mean, there's obviously always going to be new places to work and stuff that I haven't worked before. Like I mentioned before, Rev Pro and Progress would be great. I don't know how feasible that is for this year, but you know, you never know. There's always a spot if they feel the need for like a certain character, I could fit a certain character. So I will be pushing to get to those shows. I'm going to be doing more stuff with North. I'm going to be doing more stuff with all the guys I'm currently working with. True Grit, Atomic in Liverpool. They're super cool. They sell out their venue like every single time on a Wednesday night. I think it's like 300 people they get in, which is insane to sell out on a Wednesday night when it's effectively a pretty new company as well. They haven't been going that long, and they've just had like 7 or 8 shows now that have all sold out. So
you guys invaded it, didn't you, last time?
Yeah, myself, Nathan, Will Cruz, and Eve Bateman. We took on the Atomic team. It didn't end up going well for us, unfortunately. We lost.
Oh, a shout out to Jeebus again. Oh, he was obviously at the show doing filming some reels. But yeah, I saw you guys turn up, and I was just like, this is awesome. Because I think at a Planet show the weekend before, Nathan had sort of besmirched Harley at a Planet Wrestle show. And I was like, that don't make any sense. And then I saw that on the following Wednesday. I think obviously Harley was on Team Atomic.
Yeah, that match went unbelievably well. Like, from like an internal perspective, a few things didn't go as we'd planned. So there was a bit of like planning wise where things had messed up, but the crowd went insane for it. It was like the most hype I've ever been involved in for a match. When we got backstage, the promoter literally came over and said, "That's the best match we've ever had." So that was insane. I was like super buzzing for that, and I love working at Atomic. They're such a fun vibe, and I get to be a big bad heel, so it's always
That's it,
cool.
dude. That's it. You just get to turn up, food like we said before, just food bar people, get paid, go home, sort jobs. That's it. Dude, honestly, it's like it's just flown by. Just So obviously, I'm going to leave it on this mark. We've mentioned True Grit. JC's probably going to hate me for the constantly doing this, but I'm like, Kemper, Brady Phillips, come on, I want the story arc. That to me is the it just makes sense. I'm looking at True Grit. I'm like, there's nobody in that mid card that's jumping out at me at the minute that can challenge for the title, except for you. And that's not to be not besmirching anyone, but there's nobody got that continuity. Nobody's got that kind of flow. You're on the back of a few good results, a few good performances. I'm like, dude, that's my 2 cents worth anyway.
I would absolutely love that. I think the route for me is absolutely there. I think at the moment I've faced Jack Maxwell at the last show, and I beat him. And then prior to that, I tagged with Wes and Serico, and we beat Shreddy and Vusic. So I think there's still a ways to go in terms of defeating some other guys to kind of build up my reputability, I guess. But it looks like I'm not losing anytime soon. I've been on the winning front so far, so hopefully that will be in the future. But I think it's definitely doable, and I think we can build up to that, and I think that's more like it to go. So that's what I'm hoping for as well.
Obviously, as a fan, you're a wrestling fan. I don't know if you fantasy book or you're watching something thinking you're like, oh, if it did this, if it did this, if it did this. Like so I said, I think you're like 3 or 4 matches away from the title shot. But I think you're 1 match away from getting his attention. And I think after you get his attention, that's when Brady Phillips starts being Brady Phillips. He starts coming out, he starts trying to put you off, he starts interfering in your matches, or just starts talking shit about you on the mic kind of thing. And that's when the seeds get planted. And that's when, I don't know, redemption next year, next March. Bam. That was a good one.
Yeah. Well, and you've only not got to just worry about Brady, but also Ivy. So it's a tricky one. They're both very intense and very good wrestlers, which makes it difficult to surpass when they work together. And in what should be a singles match, but ultimately never is. So
Dude, I'm just fanboying out here. This is just me, my little happy place, just like oh, I should do this. Right, let's pull it back down. Let me put my feet back on the ground. And where can people find you on the socials so they know what you're up to, what shows you got coming up, and what you're doing?
So everything, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, it's all at the Joshua Kemper. So I've got that brand consistency, even though these days I don't really use the Joshua. It's just Kemper.
I noticed that when I put the graphics on, from the last show to this show, obviously I announced you last time it's Joshua Kemper kind of thing. That's why I made the point this time when I introduced you. I was just like, Kemper.
Yeah,
it's just there we go. Just like Walter. I refuse to Walter Gunther. I refuse to call him Walter. It's just like Bosch. It's there. It's 2 syllables. It means business. You know where you are. That's it. Jobs are good. And so, obviously, if you're not following Kemper, please do so on Insta, Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Show some love. If you see him at a show near you, buy a ticket, go watch it, go and be impressed. Try not to crane your neck too much by looking up. And as always, I will say thank you for watching. Hit like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the generic stuff that I always ask you to do. Keep your eyes peeled. We've got some awesome stuff coming up, some more guests to be announced. And as always, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for talking to me again.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
Not a problem, dude. And we'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.
Cheers.